Hi guys, I'm Sharonda Isadora and welcome to Brazen Big Reviews. And today I will be doing a book recap, and that recap will be on Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones. And here's the book. And because this is the paperback, actual physical copy of the book that I have, I'll leave the cover, like I used to do, leave the cover of the book somewhere in this review because I can't hold it up like this also. All right, so I purchased this book actually last week, and I was just gonna purchase it as one of my October, one of my October reads, put it towards my book haul for October, and then just read it whenever I wanted to. But I don't know. I just wanted to read the book because I heard about Miss Jones previously from her book An American Marriage, which I have not read or gotten yet, but I will be picking that up. But it probably takes me some time to read that book too, because I can just tell just from reading Silver Sparrow that her books are heavy. So let's get into this review, shall we? Okay, so So like I said, I purchased this book this previous past week or whatever, and I finished it yesterday. And I'm telling y'all, this book deals with a lot of heavy subjects, especially I feel like in a Black community that needs to be addressed and talked about. Because I feel like sometimes in our communities we try to normalize this, and what I'm talking about is men having multiple marriages or relationships, and I feel like we try to normalize it so much in the Black community, because we had that thing of we have this issue of making our Black girls feel like any man is better than no man. So yeah, that man is a cheater. Yeah, that man is know that man. Yeah, that man isn't working. Yeah, that man is having a hard time, but he needs somebody behind him to pick him up and and back him. And I just feel like even though this man is a terrible human being, and James Witherspoon, this character in this book was a terrible person. He was a terrible human being, and I just reading this book it stressed me out. It triggered me a lot because I saw myself in Dana, in what was her sister's name? I should have wrote that shit down. Sharice, sorry, Sharice. And I also saw myself in their mothers. And this story is triggering, it's depressing, but it's needed, it's needed. And I feel like it should be a book that is read. So anyway, this book is about two girls. And not just two girls, but because when we go inside of the book, we're getting one of the sisters' story, who is Dana. And she's part one of the book, and then you have Sharice, the other daughter. She's part two of the book. And I'll just read the blurb for you so you can get a general idea of what I'm talking about here. So with the opening line of Silver Sparrow, my father, James Witherspoon, is a bigamist. Author Tayari Jones unveils a breathtaking story about a man's deception, a family's complicity, and two teenage girls caught in the middle. Set in Atlanta in the 1980s, the novel revolves around James Witherspoon's two families, the public one and the secret one. When the daughters from each family meet and form a friendship, only one of them know they are sisters. It is a relationship destined to explode. This is a stunning novel from the author, the Atlanta Journal Constitution. Ooh, what a name for a paper. Deemed one of the most important writers of her generation. So you get a gist. You get a gist of what the story is about from that blurb. So Dana is the daughter in a secret family. Sharice is the daughter in the known family, the family that James Witherspoon touts, puts out there in the public. Dana and her mother Gwendolyn is the secret. There was so much going on inside of this book because through Dana and Sharice, we get the stories about their mother and how their mothers came to meet James Witherspoon. And Sharice's mother, who is his wife, well, they're both his wife, his wives rather, his first wife, his wife that the public knows about. She and James were actually forced to get married when she was 14 years old, and he was a junior in high school, so I believe he was like 16, 17 at the time or something like that. So we had that aspect of the story, and through Dana's part of the story, her mother meets James after he is already married, and to Sharice's mom, who was her mother was Laverne. So sorry. Sharice's mom name was Laverne. So he was actually, when he met Dana's mom, he was already married to Laverne. And he just got into this relationship with this woman. And Dana's mom she was okay and then not okay with being a secret wife. She was okay with, as we say these days, with being a side chick. But she still had, she in front of him when he was around her and stuff like that. She put it out there that she put it out there in the universe in front of him that she was okay with being, the side wife, because she knew even from the beginning that James was already married, because when they actually met, he was buying an anniversary gift for his first wife, which was a shitty gift, but anyway. So she knew he was married, and Dana's mom, Gwendolyn, had her own issues. She was married before, but the man from her first marriage to her wasn't enough, so she actually left him. So Dana's mom had her own issues because she didn't have a mother growing up. She had her father who was in church and stuff like that. But her mother, Dana's mother left her when she was a child. So, and Dana grew up with her father, but she never really had a relationship with her father because her father always threw in her face, you're going to end up like your mother. You're not going to, pretty much that abusive type of thing that people tend to do sometimes to their kids because they have some type of problem with their, with their ex or, with their significant other. That vitriol is passed down to the children, and that's what happened to Gwen when she was growing up. Especially when she left her first husband. Her father pretty much told her that, you're pretty much not going to be anything. You're going to end up like your mother, and you're not going to be, you're not going to be anything. You're never going to be nobody, stuff like that. So Gwen's mom, stop, Bella. Gwen's mom, I'm sorry, Dana's mother had her own issues, internal issues going on within herself, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to defend her actions to actually getting involved with this married man and then marrying him and kind of sort of forcing him to marry her because she didn't want it to seem like Dana would be this bastard child or anything like that. But James Witherspoon was also, in my opinion, he was a predator and he was abusive and he was just an all-around bad person, and I think he saw something because, in my opinion, he was a predator. I think he saw this weakness in Gwen, and he was able to manipulate her into staying silent about him dealing with her. Even when she got pregnant with Dana, he was just very manipulative, and he had and like I say, he was a manipulative, abusive person. He was like that with pretty much everyone in his life. Even the guy he grew up with, which was another character in the book whose name was Riley, he grew up with James and stuff like that. And James' mother was never really around because she was a maid for white people and stuff like that, so cleaning houses and stuff like that. So she was never around. So James and Riley pretty much grew up on their own, and they didn't have any guidance, and they didn't have a father because James' father died in this accident when he was a child. So they basically raised themselves. So, and not excusing the type of shitty person he grew up to be. But he didn't have any guidance, anything, because his mother was always at work. She was never around, and these two boys basically raised themselves and got the idea of how to be men on their own. And James grew up to be an abusive and manipulative type of man, and he did that to everyone in his life. But it was a heavy story because I feel like in the book, Dana who's his who is the secret daughter, suffered the most. Sharice suffered too, but not as much as Dana. Dana, because she knew about his real family, his real daughter and his real wife, she didn't feel complete. She was always this secret. And when he got into it with Gwen or Dana about Sharice or Laverne, he was so easily turn around and say, "Don't mess with my family." He would tell Gwen, if Gwen threatened to say something to Laverne about herself and Dana, "Don't say anything to my wife. Don't mess with my family." He was so quick to do that. He was so quick to turn around and say that. He would even say that to Dana, his own daughter, when he found out that Dana would, or Gwen or Dana would do, because they were all in Atlanta, and it was a small town, a small place or town in Atlanta. So whenever Dana wanted to go to certain type of programs or do, certain things for the summer stuff, she couldn't do it because it was Sharice was going to take that program, or Sharice was going to do this. And he had this fear of people finding out about this secret family he had. So Dana suffered the most in the story because she couldn't do anything around Atlanta for fear of running into her sister. And it was just crazy to me. But this man was so quick to demonize her when she said something about his other daughter, his real daughter. It was "Don't you say anything about my daughter." He was just this really ugly person, and it was terrible. it was terrible. And then what I really wanted to talk about, or what I really took away from this story, was this abuse and this kind of like trauma we pass down to our kids. Dana has so much trauma passed on to her, not just from this man that she called her father, but also from her mother, and also from her uncle, who was James' brother or adopted brother or whatever. They all knew, and they all expected Dana to, as a child, as a teenager, to hold this secret inside of her. And it was just, how do you put that type of trauma on a child? And when Dana would question her mom went about it, her mother would just say, that's just the way things are. And her mother would do things in this book. I'm trying not to like give you guys spoilers or whatever, but her mothers would do things inside of this story that would pass so much trauma onto this child. Like, yes, we're the secret family, and you know, yes, I know I'm the secret wife or whatever. I don't take my things to the public wife, because that's not how it is. That's how it was back in the day, or whatever you want to call it. But she would just do things, and she would just expect for Dana to just go along with it. And I was just like, how do you pass this type of mess on to this girl? You know, stalking Laverne and Sharice and taking your daughter with you. It was just terrible. It was like she was okay, but like I said, she was okay, but she was not okay with being this secret wife. She wanted to be public. She suffered her own trauma, and through Dana's mother suffering her own trauma, she in turn passed that trauma down to Dana. And Dana, she had no way of fighting it. She had no way of fighting it. It was just like, it was terrible. And I say Dana suffered the most, because even when it came out that, you know, that this man had this secret family, this second family or whatever, she still suffered. You know, and as far as like Sharice and Laverne, Sharice's mom, did the same thing. And I don't know in the book if I felt any sympathy. I felt sympathy for Laverne, but I didn't, because at the end of the day, she married this man. She was forced to marry this man when she was 14 years old. And Laverne had her own type of trauma to deal with. You know, being forced to be married at 14, and I don't. I'm like stuttering, because the story is kind of like, it's mind blowing. It's there's so much going on in the story that we as a community have to face and deal with and have conversations about, because these things still go on today. So this I have a couple of tabs up in here, but this is a crazy story. I was just like, oh my God. It's a lot it gives you a lot to think about. Like I said, I hit a lot of triggers going through this story, but it's well worth the read, even if you have some triggers, or you might see yourself, you know, in some of these characters in the story. I say complete on and finish the book, because it's just something that I appreciate the author for writing these kind of stories, because like I said, it's conversations that need to be had, especially in the Black community, because I feel like we make a lot of things okay. We normalize a lot of things in the name of bullshit, in the name of us never not having, or in the name of us not having, we normalize a lot of bullshit. And this, you know, this man having these two separate families, and everybody around him pretty much being complicit in the bullshit. You know, it's just crazy, and it's an ongoing thing. And I think it's something that we have to look in the mirror as a people and say that shit is not okay, and we have to cut the shit out. We have to cut the bullshit out, and because my thing is, reading this story, I was just like, oh my God, like the trauma of these girls, especially Dana, because she was the child that knew about the real family, but had to keep it a secret. And when everything got blown up and exposed, her and her mother were, especially Dana, they were blamed for the explosion, not the man that created the bomb to eventually set off. You understand what I'm saying? Her and her mother were pretty much to blame for everything. And it was just like, we have to stop doing that. Woo, this book is crazy, but it's a much needed read. So again, Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones. It's a child, it's something to read. It's something to and it's a good book to talk about as well. It's an excellent book to talk about. And she does put these questions at the end of the book, you know, like if you're in a book club, or which I'm not, but you know. So I'll do some of the questions. Question 1. Gwen tells Dana that they have an advantage over Laverne and Charisse because they know the truth. Is this true? No. I didn't feel that at all. What advantage did they have? In my opinion, that only made their situation worse. Because yeah, what advantage do you have? Because you knew that this man was married, you knew about his wife, and you know, you knew about his real wife and his real daughter. What advantage did that give you? That only put more trauma on yourself and your daughter. You know what I mean? That only made you suffer more. That only made Dana suffer even more. You know what I mean? So what advantage? No, she did not have any. They did not have an advantage. Question 2. Is it possible to have a healthy relationship that is not monogamous? That's a tough question, right? I don't know, y'all. If it is not monogamous, I think it's two-folded. See, the issue, okay, let me put it this way. The issue with James was I don't know if he wanted a second family. But I want to say, what I'm trying to say, I think that if maybe both families knew about each other, then maybe it could be healthy. You know, depending on the people in the relationship. Because let's admit it, we had that sometimes. You know, we had these what do you call those polygamous marriages and stuff like that, you know, and everybody knows about everybody, and sometimes everybody's in the same house and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe it can be healthy depending on the people in the relationships. But if you have secrets and unhealthy, and I'm talking about mind-wise unhealthy people in relationships, then it can't be. The relationship itself cannot be healthy if everybody else isn't mentally healthy. Does that make sense? I hope so. But I think in some instances, yes, you can have healthy non-monogamous relationships. And then I think in some instances It's just not possible. It's just not gonna happen. You know, because some people actually do believe in like, if we're together, we're together. Don't be bringing no outside people inside of it. And some people are okay with, okay, yeah, we're together, but you know, we want to bring out, you know, with these open relationships and open marriages and stuff. I mean, that's on the rise or whatever. But I guess I don't know. Me personally, I don't even know how to feel about it. That's all I got to say on that. Number 3, should Gwen have married Riley when she had a chance? Because there's a section in the book where James' best friend or brother, the guy that he grew up with, asked Gwen, because he was complicit in the bullshit too. And he actually, on the back end, fell in love with Gwen, Dana's mom, as well. And he asked Gwen to marry him. When I was reading that section of the story, I thought, yeah, maybe she should have just went ahead and not married Riley, because they had like this whole I'm not gonna give too much away, but they had like this whole goddamn intricate type of a secret going on. I'm talking about the webs. It was the spider would have had a hard ass time getting through this web, but it was just a big ass web of lies. And I think Riley really cared about Gwen. I think he loved Gwen and he loved Dana, and he really did want, and he, even though he knew what James was doing was wrong, he was still complicit in it. But like I said, James was this abusive person. He was abusive towards Riley as well. And I think low-key Riley was a little bit scared of James. That's why he never confronted James about this bullshit he was doing. And then let's just admit that a lot of men, they have friends, a lot of men friends, and a lot of other men around them that condone that bullshit. And this is what Riley did. And back to the question, while I was reading that section in the book, I thought maybe she should have just went ahead and just got with Riley. But Gwen wasn't in love with Riley. Gwen didn't want to be with Riley, so no. Because then she would have made Riley fucking miserable. And I don't know what James' reaction would have been, because he pretended so well that he loved Gwen so much. And I can't believe, I'm not taking that shit into consideration as far as this relationship. Well, you know, you can love more than one person. That's, when it came to this relationship in this book, that is a goddamn lie. James didn't love Gwen. I think Gwen to James was just someone that he can just be with when he wanted to be with. I don't think he had any real feelings towards Gwen. It was way too easy for him when the bomb did go off and explode. It was way too easy for him to walk away from Gwen. So yeah, he didn't love Gwen either, but Riley did. But no, I don't think she should have married Riley. Like the more I think about it, no. Question 4. There is so much talk these days about fatherhood, contrasting the deadbeat dad with the Bill Cosby type father. How do you evaluate James Witherspoon, who is both? Y'all already got my opinion on James. I don't think he was both. I think, like I said, I think he was a piece of shit. He was an abusive and manipulative person. He pretended in public to be this Bill Cosby type. Well, I'll say, let's not use Bill Cosby. Let's say Cliff Huxtable, the TV dad. He wasn't both, in my opinion. And the way he treated Dana and Gwen at the end of the story proves he wasn't both. He was a terrible person. And I think if Laverne had not taken him back, I think he would just been a deadbeat dad. I don't think he would have been in either one of those girls' lives. He was just a terrible ass fucking person. So yeah, that's that. 5. Both Dana and Sharice have relationships with older boys who don't necessarily treat them well. What do you think this accounts for? It accounts for their moms and the things they especially Dana. The way Dana saw James treat her mother, she gravitated towards ain't shit men. She really, really did. I think the trauma for Dana and Sharice was different. Sharice gravitated towards the boy that she wanted to be with for totally different reasons than Dana did. Sharice always felt plain and she didn't feel beautiful. Dana, with her dark skin and her long hair, she was a beautiful girl. And when Sharice first met her, Sharice had this thing of what she called silvers. Silvers were these girls or these women that had natural beauty. Sharice always thought that about Dana. She thought as herself as someone who had artificial beauty. She had to do things to make herself beautiful, like have the extra hair and makeup and stuff like that. So Sharice gravitated towards the boy she was with for totally different reasons than Dana did. Dana gravitated towards ain't shit men because her father wasn't shit, and Dana needed a father. Dana was looking for a father figure in her relationships. She was looking for someone to love her like a father. We all know that that goes on, whatever. So there was two different reasons that these girls gravitated towards these older boys. And the other thing is, Dana was popular, she was beautiful, she was popular, she was living with the cool kids, and Sharice was kind of like quiet. I won't say nerd because she wasn't very smart. She was kind of like quiet, and like I said, she wasn't a. I don't want to say she wasn't a beautiful girl because that's a terrible thing to say, but she wasn't as attractive as other girls or whatever. So that led her to, Bella, you messing with my lights. Stop it. So that led her, So yeah. So like I said, they had totally different reasons for being with these dudes. 6. Is Laverne life better or worse for having married James? What about Gwen? Does James love Laverne or Gwen? I don't know if Laverne's life was better or worse for marrying James. Like I said, she was forced to marry the dude when she was 14 years old. So I guess like in a public eye, I guess it seemed to everybody she was better off for marrying James. But I don't have any real feelings towards that because of the type of person Bella see, now you get me all distracted. Get out of here. I don't know if her life was better. I think her life was just what it was. Because we never really, even from Sharice, when we got to Sharice's point of view in the story, I don't know how, I think her and James were together just because they were. You know what I mean? I don't know if there was any real love there between her and James. They were forced to get married because of a situation. She was young, he was young, so I think they were just together because I don't think there was any, I don't think there was any real love towards, between James and Laverne. I think they were just together because they were together. As far as her life being better, I think she got the better end of the deal with him because she was the public wife. You know what I mean? I think she got the better end of the deal because she was the wife that was seen and known to be his wife. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, I just think she got the better end of the deal. I don't think her life is any better because she's still, reading parts of Sharice's point of view in the book. I don't think she was happy with James. She was happy with Sharice. She put a lot on Sharice, But I think as far as her being with James, it was just like, it is what it is. I think I got that between them. Gwen, her life was shit. I mean, Gwen was a different breed. Even Gwen was very, very calculating and smart. I mean, Gwen went to school. She was an LPN. So Gwen could have stopped fucking with James and she would have been fine. She would have been perfectly, perfectly fine. But like I said, Gwen had her own type of trauma and issues going on. So I don't know what attracted her to James. I don't know why she stayed with him through all the bullshit in all them years. So I don't know, but yeah. Does James love Laverne or Gwen? I don't think James loved anybody but himself. I think he was a very selfish, manipulative person. I don't think he loved Laverne or Gwen. I think he was mad because there was a part in the book where he said when Gwen pretty much forced him to marry her, he was like, I just want to be with, he said, I just want to marry somebody without them being pregnant, stuff like that. So he didn't love either one of them. He was just with them because he could be. And I think he was the type of person, he saw weakness in these women and he took advantage of it. He manipulated them. I really, really do. 7. Tayari Jones often writes about the way real people interact with history. For example, Gwen's feelings about the death of Martin Luther King. Have you ever interacted with history? How does it affect your personal story? I don't know. I know there's a section in the book where she was feeling a way about the death the assassination of Martin Luther King and stuff like that, and it kind of like affected her personally, whatever. I don't know if there's any stories in history that affect me personally. Not that I could think of right off the bat. I know reading this story, it kind of like interacts with my personal history, as far as like relationships and stuff like that, and how I allowed, because of the way I felt about myself at times, my own insecurities, I allowed some shit to go down that shouldn't have went down, even though I know my common sense was like knocking up against the back of my brain, like, bitch, get it together, but sometimes the heart and the brain kind of like fights each other, and no excuse, not excusing, myself or anything like that, but shit happens sometimes, and you just have to look yourself in the mirror, smack yourself across the face, realize you can do better, and go on about your business. And that's what I did. So yeah, I know there are some parts of this story that interact with my personal history, like literally, and it's just the thing of you have to face those hard truths and do what you gotta do to move on with your life and your story. 8. Does Charisse have an obligation to be sisterly towards Dana? Once she learns they are related, by that token, does Dana have an obligation to Charisse as a friend or as a sister? First question, does Charisse have an obligation to be sisterly? No, she doesn't. I think like once, let's say, stepbrothers or sisters find out about each other, especially in a terrible way that Charisse found out about Dana and Gwen, those children, they have an obligation. I feel like they only have an obligation to themselves. They don't have an obligation to their parents. They have an obligation to themselves. And the thing is, do you want to, or do you want to have a relationship with this new family member, or do you not? And I think the issue with Sharice and Dana, they were always taking into consideration of their mothers. They were always taking in their mother's feelings, and so. Let me get to answer that question. No, I don't think she had an obligation. It would have been nice if she would have saw past the bullshit. But Sharice was just as much as hurt as Laverne was when the secret came out. So I understood her hurt and I understood her anger. I think, and she did direct her anger at her father. And I get her anger at Gwen and Dana at the way that it went down. But I think she should have separated her feelings from her mother's feelings. And I think she should have, even if she didn't want to talk to Gwen, because I would have felt the way about a bitch coming to my mother and telling my mother some bullshit. You know what I mean? But I think she should have separated her feelings from her mom and what her mom was going through. I'm not saying that she should not have been there for her mother. But I think she should have separated her feelings from her mom, and I think she should have talked to Dana. Just talk to the girl, and even after that conversation, rather it went the way she wanted to or not, then after that point, I think she could have been like, you know what, I don't want to be sisters with you, or I do want to be sisters with you. But did she have an obligation? Most definitely not. No. Nope. By that token, does Dana have an obligation to Sharice as a friend or as a sister? Dana didn't have an obligation too. Neither. Dana didn't have an obligation either. And because Dana was the one, in my opinion, that suffered the most in all this bullshit, because even at the end of it all, Sharice's feelings were still protected. Dana was pretty much told to go fuck herself. You know what I mean? By her sister that suddenly knew about her, by her own father. It was terrible for Dana. So Dana didn't have an obligation either. I mean, personally, in my opinion, if I was Dana, I would have been like, fuck all of y'all. That's just me. I would be like, forget all of y'all. Just fuck all of y'all. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. But that's just me. Number 9, why do you think Riley is so loyal to James? I don't know. That just goes back to me that James being this manipulative, abusive person. And I think in all of my heart, in my opinion, I think he was abusive towards Riley, because Riley was kind of like this meek type of person, He was a good person, but he was still kind of like meek. He was the type of person that you can see and you could take advantage of. And I think James did that full-heartedly. And plus, Riley had a loyalty had this kind of like blinding loyalty towards James and his mother, because James' mom took him in when he was such a small child. So he had like this blinding loyalty as well. But also, in my opinion, I wholeheartedly believe that James was manipulative and abusive towards Riley as well, because he could be. So, yeah. 10. What is the role of economics in this story? For James, I think James, because he had his own limo business or whatever. The economics part is that Laverne and Sharice lived lovely off of James' income. Gwen and Dana got the scraps, or of what James could provide after he finished doing what he had to do for his real wife and child. Which is why Gwen decided to go to school, do her get her LPN license and stuff like that. So the economics part was, it wasn't fair as far as this relationship. This man wanted to have his second family, but he didn't want to take care of that second family the way he wanted to take care of his first family. And and in my opinion, if you're gonna be that dude, if you want a first wife and a second wife, a third wife, whatever, then you need to be taking care of everybody the same. Why did Gwen and Dana have to live in the most sorriest part of the neighborhoods and get what you could give when you could give, because you wanted to keep this motherfucking secret. So the economics wasn't fair at all. Like, Gwen had to go to school, which she should have did anyway, but she had to go to school and work and stuff like that. Laverne had her own business. She was doing hair terribly, but she was she had her own business and stuff like that. So the economics part of it was not fair, especially when Dana was growing up, because Dana couldn't be part of certain programs. She couldn't take some summer jobs because James had this fear of her running into Sharice, and Sharice finding out that Dana was her sister. It was just terrible, and all that pressure was put on Dana, because it was just like, she saw this girl all around town who was a sister, but she couldn't say anything to the fucking girl. This girl had panic attacks and stuff like that. When it was terrible. It's fucking terrible. Anyway, 11. Much of the book is set in Laverne's salon, the Pink Fox, which really only the second half of the book, when you get Sharice's point of view, is set in her mom's salon. How does hair figure into the story? Do you think your own hair has impacted your life, for better or for worse? Oh, well, it's a hair salon, and we all know what hair salons, women, especially black women, we go there, we talk, we tell our stories. We might tell our stories too much, we tell our stories and stuff like that. So I think that had a lot to, that impacted the story that way. Because when Dana was in that salon, she learned some things about Sharice and Laverne, and she ended up telling some things, not a lot of things, but she ended up telling some things. So I think it impacted the story that way. You just, as a woman, you go into the salon, and there's kind of like this sisterly bond when you go inside the salon, and you become friends or acquaintances with your hairdresser and the other women inside the salon. You end up telling your story, the way your story, the way you want your story to be told. So, it's something. Do you think your own hair has impacted your life, for better or for worse? There were times, yeah. Right about now, I think we as black women were a little bit more comfortable with our hair as a whole. I think we still struggle. We most definitely still struggle. Sometimes I'm comfortable with my hair, sometimes I'm not. It's depending on how I'm styling it. it's really dependent on how I'm styling it or whatever. So, sometimes I want it straight, sometimes I just want to leave it alone. But sometimes, I don't know. With me, sometimes I care, sometimes I don't. It is what it is, as far as my hair is concerned. Okay, sorry guys. The camera shorted out on me. I took too long talking, so now shorted out on me. I took too long talking, so my bad. So let's finish these questions so I can get this over with. I'm gonna have to turn this video down because I didn't even realize I was talking that long. This book had an impact on my ass. I can see that. So the camera cut off at what's going wrong to confront Laverne, and all you got was my book. So no, I mean, yes, I think she was wrong to confront Laverne in the manner that she did, because Gwen only confronted Laverne because she was mad and upset, and she put that anger and that feeling, and those feelings that she had, she put all of that on Dana. And then where she confronted Laverne, I don't agree with at all. I thought it was a terrible thing to do. It was just not a good scene. So no, I don't think she was. I don't think it was good for her to confront Laverne at all. I think she should have just. I understand she was mad about the situation that happened the previous night and stuff like that. Not the previous night, but I understand she was upset. I get it. I got it. But all of that anger and emotional shit, she should have took that shit out on James, and she didn't. She took it out on Laverne. She dragged Dana with her, and it was a terrible scene. So no, I don't think she should have confronted Laverne at all. Which characters were your favorite? Which characters would you like to know more about? Honestly, guys, my favorite character was Dana. I don't know, I was gravitated and I was drawn to Dana's character from the beginning to the end of the story, even during Sharice's part of the book. And I just feel like I said earlier while I was talking, I think that Dana suffered the most. I think Dana's feelings were hurt by everybody. Even once the truth was out, I think she expected a different outcome, and when she didn't get that outcome, she was hurt, and I can totally understand that. So Dana, and if there's anybody in this story I want to hear more about, it would be Dana. I don't care about nobody else. That's that. 14. Who do you think sent the mysterious postcard at the end of the book? Okay, so once everything came to be, there was a postcard sent to Laverne saying something about a bigamist, and he can go to jail and all this other stuff. So who do I think sent the postcard? I don't know. I thought it was Gwen, but it wasn't Gwen. But honestly, I think it was Dana. But maybe it wasn't Dana. I don't know. I think it was Dana that sent the postcard, and I think she sent it as I don't know if she sent it as a threat. I think she just sent it as more of a warning. Like, don't start no shit with my family, and I won't start no shit with yours. I think she did it that way. That's what I think. Last question. Could the story have had a happy ending? Ooh. Honestly, no. No, not this story. Not the way it all began. Not the way it all begun. No, I don't think it. I mean, even if no, no happy ending here because of the way these characters were portrayed, because of the way these characters are or were. Like I said, James was a manipulative person, and he was abusive, and there was a lot of complicity inside of this story. A lot of people were complicit in their own, not just in everybody else's bullshit, but a lot of people were complicit in their own bullshit. They excused their own behavior. So the only people that I'm giving a pass in this story is Gwen and not Gwen, but Dana and Sharice, the children, because they were innocent in all this bullshit that their parents and the people around them allowed to go on. So yeah, no, this story wouldn't have a happy. It couldn't have had a happy ending, and I think because of the way these girls felt about their mothers. When they were younger, yeah, I don't think they could have been like sisters like that, you know what I mean, stepsisters, whatever. I think as they got older, if they had gotten past, you know, the bullshit or whatever, now that they're adults, I think they could have come together and decided to be sisters, you know, despite what their parents might feel. You know what I mean? Once they're in their own way and, you know, they're on their own and they're doing their own thing and they have, you know, their feelings about things, you know, separately outside of their parents, then yeah, they could have came together to and decided to have some type of relationship. It could have been like, you know, maybe kind of like trying type of relationship, or they could have just been together, like came together finally, and be like, you know what, fuck them people. Dana made a very good point at the end of the book. Their being sisters had nothing to do with their parents' situation. That was on their parents, but them as their own people, as their own selves, could have just been sisters the way they needed to be sisters. So I totally understood that aspect from Dana. And I think Dana wanted that. But Dana was also faithful to her mother. She didn't want to see her mother hurt. So, yeah, I didn't see a happy ending to this story. Even as they were adults, because there was, once that secret blew up and came out, there was this distance, this non-communication between the two girls for years. And trust is a very big thing, you know what I mean? And I think that at the end of the day, these two girls did not trust one another. And that had a lot to do with their parents. Even as adults, they didn't trust one another. And I think if they would have learned how to trust one another, then yeah, could have had a happy ending as far as them now adults getting past their parents' shits, being sisters, yeah. But if there's no trust between them, then no, it's not gonna work. So, this is a very good book. It's very emotional. It's very, it's a lot. It's heavy. It's draining, but it's a good ass book, and I highly recommend reading it. Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones, and I'm going to rate this one 5 stars on Goodreads. And I will link the review on Goodreads because I ain't got time to be writing no more. If I write anything else, if I even say anything else about this book, I'm gonna bust into a ball of fire. All right, no, I'm not. Okay, later days, guys. Bye. Until the next one.